This video is brought to you by tblocks.com, officially licensed geek and gamer shirts and gear delivered directly to your mailbox for only $9.99 US a month. Click the annotation or use the link in the description and enter the code ThatGeekyGamer for 15% off your first month. Lara Croft is back yet again in the sequel to the 2013 reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise. The first game was a pretty decent and enjoyable experience, but can this follow-up improve on the formula, or does it fail to rise to the occasion? Let's talk story first. After the events of the previous game, Lara has turned to her late father's research to try and find some sort of explanation to what she saw and experienced. In doing so, she learns about the lost city of Kitezh and the Prophet of Constantinople. The Prophet and this city is said to hold the secret to immortality, so Lara heads to Syria to find and uncover the Prophet's tomb. Although she eventually finds it, the tomb turns out to be empty, and Lara is confronted by a shadowy and ancient organization called Trinity, led by a man named Constantine. After escaping from their clutches and returning to her father's study, Lara is led to Siberia by a mysterious symbol that was etched into the Prophet's tomb, as well as one of her father's books. This starts a hunt between Lara and Trinity for the so-called Divine Source, with Lara hoping to recover it first in order to save the world and prove her father right in the process. There are quite a few other events that happen along the way as well, but at least without going into spoiler territory, I think you've been told all you need to know. In any case, this story is decent enough, but maybe a bit too safe. No, I wasn't really expecting anything all that spectacularly new or anything, but there isn't really anything too thrilling or intriguing here either. There aren't really any surprises to speak of. Unfortunately, this also kinda carries over into the actual game. Don't get me wrong, it's not really a bad experience or anything, but it does feel very, very familiar. Okay, so you could argue that it's more a case of if it's not broken, don't fix it than anything else, and I wasn't expecting them to change absolutely everything since last time, but still, you could change it up a little bit. Well, to be fair, there are a few very minor additions, but they're almost unnoticeable, especially since most of them aren't a factor until fairly late in the game. Hell, even the settings and set pieces feel almost oddly similar to both the previous game and the Uncharted series, a comparison you simply can't get away from with this game. We'll get to all that though, but let's just look at some of the basics first for those who may not be too familiar with them. As you should expect, the game mostly involves a fair amount of platforming, mountainside scaling, and jumps over treacherous areas, interspersed with occasional combat sections, as well as some light puzzle solving every once in a while. While all of this works well enough, I do want to talk a bit more about the combat sections. It might just be me, but I feel like they tried to make it a bit more about stealth this time. Oh, you can definitely go in guns blazing if you feel like it, and it may actually be a bit easier at times, but apart from possibly a few sections, the stealthier approach does seem like the way to go. You even tend to get greater XP bonuses for stealth kills and such, and occasionally, taking the full combat route is an almost guaranteed death sentence. Not often, mind you, but it definitely can be. Speaking of XP points, that's another part of the game. You see, by killing enemies, hunting animals, or collecting various items in the field, you gain experience points that can be used at base camps to upgrade your weapons and equipment, or to craft new gear or ammunition. This is all well and good, but it is exactly the same as before. There's absolutely nothing new about this process. Something that is new, at least from what I can remember, is the inclusion of a supply shack where you can purchase additional equipment from a former Trinity technician. You have to use golden Byzantine coins to pay him, but these can be found all over the place. You will have to search around quite a bit in order to afford everything on offer though, but this is a fairly decent addition. There are also various challenges you can do throughout the game that will grant you additional equipment. These can be almost anything from gathering a set number of items to taking down a bunch of drones. As this is optional, I would usually say don't bother, but the rewards can actually be quite significant, so you should probably do at least some of them. One kind of challenge you most certainly shouldn't avoid are the tombs. Yeah, it is pretty weird that the tombs in a game called Rise of the Tomb Raider are once again relegated to optional side missions, but at least this time, the rewards for going through with them can make quite a significant difference. Besides, they're actually quite fun to go through, so yeah, Tomb Raider way. As stated earlier though, none of this is all that fresh. True, the minor additions and variations that are here are welcome, but that's really all they are, slight variations. I mean, everything even looks exactly the same. The menus, the maps, the base camps, it all looks identical. No, it doesn't ruin anything, but come on, you could have at least given the game some kind of unique identity. That said, they do occasionally try to add something new, but even that doesn't feel quite new. For example, you eventually get a grappling hook that can be used to swing from certain beams or hook onto far ledges and such. Neat enough idea, and it works very well, but I just feel like I've seen this in some other game. Yeah, seems pretty similar, doesn't it? Now, I'm not saying Crystal Dynamics stole this idea from Naughty Dog or vice versa, as plenty of games have used this sort of thing before, but it does seem a bit suspicious that just after Uncharted 4 showed off a grappling hook, Rise of the Tomb Raider suddenly received one as well. Maybe it was always there, but still, kinda iffy. Ultimately, that's what I come back to with this one. It's a good, enjoyable, and solid experience, but it all just feels too safe and predictable. Every set piece, every mechanic, every story element, all of it just comes across as a huge helping of been there, done that. No, that's not necessarily such a bad thing, but it just feels way too lazy this time around. Again, there are additions or at least variations of the formula, but they are pretty few and far between, and they're certainly not big enough to give the game its own identity. Either way, it is pretty easy to sum up this game overall. If you liked the first one, you'll like this. If you hated the first, this isn't going to win you over. New to the series? Then you'll probably like it okay as well. All in all, I'd say the game is worth a try, but you certainly do not need to rush off and get it right away. Wait until the price comes down a bit. Also, please do not buy an Xbox One because of this game, as that's entirely pointless. Not only can you wait until the PS4 or PC version is released next year, but you could also do what I did and get the 360 version. Sure, the graphical quality is probably a bit better on the Xbone, but I for one found the 360 version to be more than acceptable, especially during the cutscenes. Yeah, there were a few minor glitches and hiccups at times, especially when loading certain cutscenes and the like, but nothing that crashed or ruined the game. Ultimately, it's certainly a very acceptable version. Still, this isn't a game you need to have right away, no matter what format you may want it for. Even if you're a huge fan of the series, or at least the reboot, you shouldn't necessarily avoid the game as it is enjoyable, but I for one don't feel it's worth full price. Take it for what it's worth, but I think this one can wait a bit.
When